Good afternoon. I call to order the January 27th, 2026 regular meeting of the Minneapolis Heritage Preservation Commission. For the record, my name is Marie Bjornberg and I serve as chair of the commission. Just a reminder to silence your cell phones and other electronic devices and to speak clearly into the microphone when speaking at the dais or giving testimony. Would the clerk please call the roll so we may verify the presence of a quorum?
Commissioner Alexander is absent. Booty.
Present.
Corrado.
Present.
Melblom is absent. Rodriguez.
Present.
Thomas.
Present.
Wallace.
Present.
Vice Chair Maston.
Present.
Chair Bjornberg.
Present.
There are 7 members present.
Let the record reflect that we do have quorum and that Commissioner Melblom provided proper notice that they have a conflict this afternoon and their absence is excused. Our first order of business is to adopt the agenda for this meeting. We will work from the agendas that are available by the clerk, and I will go through and sort out which items will be withdrawn, which items will be continued, which items will be discussed, and which items will be put on the consent agenda. Item number 4 is election of 2026 officers, and this item will be discussed. Item number 5 is 2026 Heritage Preservation Commission calendar, and this item will be discussed. Item number 6, Fox Auto Complex, 1621 through 1635 Hennepin Avenue, Ward 7. This application is for a National Register nomination and will be discussed. Item number 7 is 40 Power Street, Ward 3. This application is for a certificate of appropriateness and will be discussed. Item number 8 is 3123 2nd Avenue South, Ward 8. This application is for a certificate of appropriateness and will be discussed. Item number 9 is 1700 50th Street West, Ward 13. This application is for a demolition of a historic resource and will be continued to the February 10th, 2026 meeting. So the proposed agenda is the following item will be continued to the February 10th Heritage Preservation Commission, item number 9, 1700 50th Street West, Ward 13. Following items will have staff presentation, public comment, and commission discussion and action. Item number 6, Fox Auto Complex, 1621 through 1635 Hennepin Avenue, Ward 7. Item number 7, 40 Power Street, Ward 3. Item number 8, 3123 2nd Avenue South, Ward 8. And the following items will have staff presentation and commission discussion without a public hearing. Item number 4, election of 2026 officers. And item number 5, 2026 Heritage Preservation Commission calendar. May I have a motion to approve the proposed agenda?
Maston so moves.
I would like to comment on item number 8, requesting a public hearing.
Yep, that will have a public hearing and a discussion. Nope, that will be on the public comment. Yep, thank you.
Maston so moves.
Thank you, Commissioner Maston. Is there a second?
Wallace seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Wallace. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The agenda is approved. Our next order of business will be to approve the minutes from our January 13th, 2026 meeting. May I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Thomas so moves.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Rodriguez seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? The minutes are approved. Before I open the hearing to public comments, let me summarize the process for conducting the public hearing. First, we will take the discussion items. Then we will take each remaining agenda item in order. Planning staff will present its report and commissioners may ask questions of staff. Then I will open the public hearing and we will hear from the applicant and commissioners may ask questions of the applicant. After that, we will invite public comment. If you wish to speak, we need you to do 2 things. Please be sure to sign up on the sheet over by the clerk. If you haven't done this already, you can do so afterwards. When you come up to testify, you must state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments specific to the application before us. Our first item is item number 4, election of officers, and this item will be run by the clerk.
Good evening. Before us is the election of the body's officers as set forth in sections 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 of the bylaws. In terms of procedures, I intend to administer the election for both president, vice president, and secretary, and we will follow the same procedure for those offices. That procedure will be as follows. First, I will open the floor for nominations. After all nominations have been made, the nominating period will be closed. Once the nomination period is closed, no further nominations will be accepted. Second, after the nomination period is closed, we will proceed to take the vote by roll call. There will be a separate vote for each nominee. We will consider and act on each nomination in the order it was received. Voting will be done by roll call, and the clerk, myself, will call the roll. Third, the nominee who receives the majority vote will be declared the winner of the election. Once the officers have been announced, I will turn the proceeding back over to the newly elected chair to preside over the remainder of the agenda. Are there any questions on the process that I have outlined? All right. With that, we will proceed to the election of the chair of the HPC. Without objection, the floor is now open to nominations for the office of chair. Are there any nominations? Are there any nominations?
I nominate Marie Bjornberg.
Maston nominates Bjornberg. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing no further nominations, the nominating period is now closed. Before we proceed to a vote, I will open the floor for general discussion. Are there any comments on these nominations? Seeing no further requests for comment, I will proceed to the vote of the nomination to elect Bjornberg to the office of chair. Booty.
Aye.
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Corrado.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
That nomination carries, and Chair Bjornberg has been elected the chair. I will now open the floor for nominations of the vice chair. Are there any nominations?
I would like to nominate Commissioner Maston for vice chair, please.
Wallace nominates Maston as vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing no further nominations, I will now open the floor for general discussion. Are there any comments from any commissioners? Seeing none, I will now take the roll on the election of Maston for vice chair. Booty.
Aye. Aye. Sorry.
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Corrado.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Melblom. Oh, Melblom is absent, excuse me. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
That motion carries, and Maston has been elected vice chair. I will now open the floor to nominations for the office of secretary. Are there any nominations?
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Are we allowed to nominate a commission member who is not here?
Yes, you are allowed to nominate that commissioner. If they so choose not to take up that position, they can let that be known at the following meeting, of which we will follow that up with a election for the secretary again.
Okay, got you. In that case, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Melblom as secretary.
Wallace nominates Melblom. Are there any further nominations for the chair or for the secretary position? Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, I will now ask if there's any comments people would like to make on this nomination. Seeing none, I will now move on to the election. Booty.
Aye.
Bjornberg.
Aye.
Corrado.
Aye.
Maston.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
That motion carries, and Mel Bloom has been elected secretary. Congratulations to Chair Bjornberg, Vice Chair Maston, and Secretary Mel Bloom. Madam Chair, I will now hand the reins back to you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is item number 5, 2026 Heritage Preservation Commission calendar, and that item will be presented by Aaron Kay.
Good afternoon, Chair Bjornberg and Commissioners. My name is Erin Kay, and I am a Senior City Planner in the Historic Preservation subsection of the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development, or CPED. Today we have the full 2026 calendar for your adoption. So you have already adopted the meeting schedule for January and February, and this will complete the year. So year at a glance, here's the first half. We are planned to have, as usual, 2 meetings per month, except for in May, where there'd be 1 HPC meeting due to a council break, and 1 retreat is planned in May as well on May 7th. You can see that in the bright green color versus the deeper green for the HPC meetings. And then in the second half of the year, we'll continue with 2 meetings per month, except in December, which is typical. We do have 1 Monday meeting planned in November due to the conflict with Election Day. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to stay for questions.
Thank you for that. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I move to accept this calendar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say nay. The calendar is accepted. Okay, our next item will be item number 6, Fox Auto Complex, 1621 through 1635 Hennepin Avenue, Ward 7. This item is a National Register nomination and will be presented by Aaron Kay.
Good afternoon again, Chair Bjornberg and Commissioners. My name is Erin Kay, and I'm a Senior City Planner in the Historic Preservation subsection of the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development, or CPED. I am here today to present a National Register of Historic Places nomination for the Fox Auto Complex at 1621 to 35 Hennepin Avenue. I'll note these addresses refer to the parcel addresses of the property, which are different from the building numbers that the tenants may use. I will provide a high-level overview of the nomination, which was prepared by AWH Architects, and this nomination was initiated by the property owner as part of the historic tax credit process. Here is an aerial view of the nominated property, which includes 5 buildings across 4 parcels and an alleyway. The entire nominated property also falls within the locally designated Harmon Place Historic District. 4 of the buildings were built between 1911 and 1917 and are contributing resources to the local historic district. 1 building at 1621 Hennepin Avenue, so that's at the north end of the complex, was built in 1941 and is a non-contributing resource to the local historic district. This complex represents early 20th century automobile buildings that served as the headquarters for Fox Auto Company from 1911 to 1931. I will share a photo of each of the contributing buildings momentarily. They are generally 2 to 3 stories tall and clad in brick and stone with classical revival and/or Beaux-Arts details. They were designed by Tyre, Chapman, and Bell. Here is 1625 Hennepin Avenue. So the first of the contributing resources. I'll note that the non-contributing resource is seen at the left end of this photo. It's a 1-story brick addition. Here is 1629 Hennepin Avenue, so the next in the series. Here is 1635 Hennepin Avenue, which is comprised of 2 distinct buildings. So this is the northernmost one, and this is a photo of the southernmost building, which is the largest and wraps around the corner. All 4 buildings are interconnected on the interior and have interior passageways that allow navigation between the various historic functions of the building. On the back side of the buildings, there is also an alleyway which helped facilitate movement of vehicles and personnel associated with the complex. The National Register nomination recommends that the property has statewide significance under National Register Criterion A in the areas of commerce and industry for its contributions during the formative years of the state's automotive industry. This complex included the headquarters, showroom, and service garage of the Fox Auto Company, which had one of the first automotive showrooms in Minneapolis and was an early major Midwest distributor for Oldsmobile and other early automobile brands. This company and the buildings had major impacts on the local and statewide automotive industry. Staff agree with this recommendation. Staff also agree with the recommended period of significance from 1911 to 1931 to encompass the Fox Auto Company's ownership. Although there have been changes to the buildings over time, staff also agree that the property retains sufficient integrity to convey its historical significance. The nomination recommends that 3 of the buildings and the alley, 4 of the buildings and the alley are contributing, and 1 building is non-contributing. Overall, the nomination includes a very detailed architectural description and strong supporting historical information. The detailed diagrams also greatly add to an understanding of the complex's layout and historical uses. As a certified local government, the Commission is required by federal law to participate in the National Register nomination process as follows: afford the public a reasonable opportunity to comment on the nomination, prepare a report as to whether or not the subject property is eligible for National Register listing, and have the chief local elected official, the mayor, submit this report and his or her recommendation to the Minnesota State Historic Preservation Officer within 60 days of notice from the SHPO. After taking any public comments today, staff will receive your comments and transmit them in a letter to the State Historic Preservation Office. The nomination will then be heard at the February 10th State Review Board meeting. Staff do have a handful of comments for your consideration. Any comments from the HPC will be taken into account by the State Review Board, and it is staff's understanding that revisions could be made before the nomination would be transmitted to the National Park Service. First, staff have identified 2 minor typos in Section 7 on page 20. In the second line of the description for 1635 Hennepin Avenue, the text refers to tenant address when they mean tenant addresses. In Section 7 on page 21, there's also a small typo in the word Fox. It's missing a W. And then additionally, staff noted that the parcel addresses are a little hard to follow in the nomination text, especially because 1635 Hennepin Avenue actually includes 2 buildings, as I mentioned, that have the addresses of 1637 to 1649 Hennepin Avenue. And so if possible, staff recommend using the historic building addresses in the description in Section 7 as shown in their map in Figure B instead of the parcel addresses, just to help the reader orient themselves through the nomination. Also in Figure B, staff noted that the build dates on this figure don't quite align with the dates in the description in Section 7. For example, 1629 Hennepin Avenue is shown as being built in 1914, whereas the narrative indicates 1916, and the southernmost building is shown as 1916, whereas the narrative indicates 1917. Staff realized it's possible that construction started in one year and finished at a different year to explain that discrepancy. Staff also suggests considering adding the address of 1621 for the non-contributing addition to this map. Again, I think it just will help bring all the pieces together so people are really familiar and can kind of understand the history that's being presented. Staff's final comments relate to the discussion of the local designation of the Harmon Place Historic District in Section 8 on page 42. Staff did find some discrepancies in information based on our records and have been able to discuss it with the nomination authors. In short, there was some confusion about the local designation status for the property, which we have now cleared up. Since the complex is locally designated, staff suggests revising the first paragraph to make that more clear. And then in the second paragraph, staff suggests revising the statement that the buildings predate all of the contributing automobile structures in the local historic district to say they are among the earliest, but not the earliest. Finally, staff suggests removing some information in the third paragraph related to a previous owner's request to exclude the buildings from a survey and information about what the historic district is not National Register eligible on its own. In staff's opinion, this just doesn't seem relevant to the nomination and does not need to be included. Staff recommend that the Heritage Preservation Commission recommend that the Fox Auto Complex meets at least one of the criteria for eligibility for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and direct staff to transmit a letter summarizing their opinion and comments to the State Historic Preservation Officer. Staff have not received any comments from members of the public. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to stay for questions. The nomination authors are also present if you do have any questions, but they will otherwise not be giving a presentation.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, are there any questions for staff on that? Okay. I'll now open the public hearing for this item. I understand that the applicant does not want to add anything to that. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak about this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, are there any comments about this application that you'd like to add? Commissioner Wallace.
I would guess most of us are familiar with the property, and that's why we don't have questions. Yeah, that's why I don't have questions. I'm familiar. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I feel like when I was reading this, I was more surprised that it hadn't already been nominated than anything. So I will just also add, like, it was very thorough. I appreciated that about it. I don't know if there are other comments that we want to have transmitted along with that. If not, does anyone want to make a motion? Commissioner Booty.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that the Heritage Preservation Commission recommends that the Fox Auto Complex meets at least one of the criteria for eligibility for listing in the National Register for Historic Places, and direct staff to transmit a letter summarizing their opinion and comments to the State Historic Preservation Officer.
Thank you, Commissioner Booty. Is there a second?
Maston seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Maston. Any further discussion? Would the clerk call the roll?
Booty.
Aye.
Corrado.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
Vice Chair Maston.
Aye.
Chair Bjornberg.
Aye.
There are 7 ayes.
Thank you. That motion passes. Our next item is item number 7, 40 Power Street, Ward 3. This application is for a certificate of appropriateness, and the staff report is presented by Rob Skalecki.
Thank you, Chair Bjornberg, and good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Rob Skalecki, Senior City Planner in the Historic Preservation Team in CPED, and today I'm presenting a certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 40 Power Street in the St. Anthony Falls Historic District. The subject building is currently known as the Nicollet Island Pavilion. The building was completed between September 6th and December 31st, 1893, for the Lintgis, Connells and Company, who manufactured boilers under the Nicollet Island Steam Boiler Company name. On September 6, 1895, the company received a permit approval to construct a one-story brick and iron boiler shop with a basement following the 1893 Nicollet Island fire, which significantly damaged their boiler shop along with many properties on the island. You can see it actually under construction here in the photo from November of 1893 on the left. Following this, William Brose was a partner in the business, and he would later take full name of the commercial outfit by 1897, and the property would become best known as home of the William Brose Boiler Company. The building does include a large cupola that was historically used as a riveting tower, and you can see an example of that on the right here for the interior. The more historic photos from 1899 on the top and 1933 on the bottom, just showing the building and the prominence of this tower in the building's history. So historically, this multi-story hydraulic riveter and hoister system could generate 150 tons of force to drive rivets into held metal plates. And this system and level of force was well suited for certain marine boiler work and certain contracts that the Nicollet Island Steam Boiler Company and the William Brose Company were able to fulfill, and they were one of the few companies in the country that had the equipment to take on these contracts. As part of the Nicollet Island Redevelopment Initiative in the 1980s, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board acquired the building and conducted a full rehabilitation of the property. According to the applicant, this included removing tar paper and wood cladding from the previous tenant and owner, Durkee Atwood, that existed on this cupola tower. New cedar lap siding and windows in previously infilled historic openings were installed as part of this rehabilitation. A Nicollet Island Park sign was painted at that time and later became Nicollet Island Pavilion for the signage. In 2022, CPED did approve a certificate of no change to allow for the replacement of the existing wood with proposed hardy plank siding on the cupola tower. That certificate of no change approval did expire in November of 2024. The project returned to staff in the fall of 2025, and at that time, staff noticed that the application type and the approval was completed in a staff error, and the full replacement of highly visible siding, windows, and signage on a historic cupola tower as such was something that staff believed could not be reviewed administratively. So staff did notify the applicant that a certificate of appropriateness was the application that must be submitted, and that is what the HPC is reviewing today. The applicant is proposing alterations to the cupola to replace deteriorated wood siding and install new materials that they believe will be less prone to moisture infiltration. You can see a lot of the damage here in the applicant submitted photos over the years to the wood siding that's been installed. The applicant has also shown that 4 windows that are non-historic have also been part of suffered water damage along with the wood siding. So the applicant is proposing to replace the wood siding on all 4 elevations of the cupola, and they're planning to replace this with hardy plank board. Select deteriorated sheathing is also planned for removal and replacement as part of the project. The hardy board is planned to be pre-painted, or I guess pre-colored a deep green to match the existing cupola color, and it would have a false wood grain finish as part of that product. The windows for replacement, there are 2 windows on the east side and 2 on the west side, so totaling 4 windows. Again, these are existing non-historic. 2 of them are wood, 2 of them are vinyl, but they do show deterioration in line with what we see the deterioration here for the wood siding due to moisture infiltration. So currently all these windows are fixed, and the proposed replacements are planned to be fixed with the exception of 1 window that's planned for the property, and staff will get into that as a condition of approval to clarify which window that will be. But the new models will match the existing models in light division. They will be aluminum-clad wood. And in addition, the last and third point of the scope of work is to repaint actually that Nicollet Island Pavilion sign on the new siding. So with that, staff did evaluate the property, I should say the project, under the 5 findings for a certificate of appropriateness. I will focus on the 2 findings evaluating it under the guidelines as well as the Secretary of the Interior standards. So for the guidelines, the St. Anthony Falls Historic District guidelines were adopted in 2012. With that, they do have specific guidance for materials when replacing materials on historic or contributing buildings. So there's a section that notes that when replacing materials on primary surfaces, the material should be matched in composition, scale, and finish, and also that imitation materials as replacements should not be used in primary locations. So staff noted in our comment that the applicant is proposing to replace the siding. It is believed to be non-historic, but it is wood, and the applicant is proposing the hardy plank cement board with the false wood grain finish. The guidelines do have a section that allow for the commission to consider certain replacement materials in secondary locations, but staff noted that the guidelines don't really define what a secondary location is, and staff wouldn't consider a cupola of this size, this visibility surrounded by park space to have secondary locations when most of the sides of this are going to be visible from a variety of areas within the district. So with that, staff does not consider the hardy plank to meet the design guideline requirements that do require to replace in kind and do discourage the use of alternative materials in visible locations. Evaluating, one other thing I'll note is that staff pointed out that the guidelines for this district don't have a specific area to evaluate non-historic window replacements on contributing properties, so we deferred to the standards to evaluate those. Under evaluating the project with the standards, staff focused on standard number 2 and standard number 9, noting that the project, as conditioned by staff, does meet standard 9, as the new windows will match the appearance of the non-historic wood and vinyl windows and also be a compatible metal-clad wood material, and the light division will match what was previously there. In replacing the non-historic wood siding with hardy plank, and that being a cement board product, staff does not believe that meets standard 2. So the siding on the property was historically, as far as we know, ironclad. So that is per evidence from Sanborn maps from 1912 and 1930 that show that the tower was historically metal-clad. With that, when we're looking at replacement wood with a new material, hardy plank siding wasn't something that historically existed here. So when we're looking at a replacement material, it's best to look to replace in kind if we aren't certain exactly what historically existed here, instead of going towards a newer material with a false wood grain appearance that may give that false sense of history for the property. So with that, the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development recommends that the Heritage Preservation Commission adopt staff findings for the Certificate of Appropriateness application by Madeline Sundberg of McDonald & Mack Architects on behalf of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board for the property located at 40 Power Street in the St. Anthony Falls Historic District, and recommend that the Heritage Preservation Commission approves the Certificate of Appropriateness to replace siding and windows and repaint signage on the property located at 40 Power Street in the St. Anthony Falls Historic District, subject to the following conditions. The first is that siding shall be replaced in kind using wood lap to match the appearance and dimensions of the existing siding. Hardy plank fiber cement board siding is not permitted. And the second condition of approval is that the plan for an operable window on the existing opening on the west, which is also the southwest elevation, shall be finalized and submitted for staff review and approval prior to permit submittal. And I'm available for any questions about this, but I do understand the applicant and property representative are here to speak as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioners, are there questions for staff? Commissioner Corrado.
The photographs seem to indicate that there are appear to be lights on the side of the structure. Are those remaining? Are they going to be replaced?
Chair Bjornberg, Commissioner Corrado, that's a good question. That might be something that staff didn't initially catch in the drawings. I think that's something we can ask the applicant. But if there are lights that are being planned, it wasn't something that we reviewed as part of this submission. So that could be something that staff talks to the applicant about at a later time.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you for the presentation. Just a quick question. Did the applicant and staff discussed the possibility of using the metal siding to match the original. Was that brought up as a part of this discussion or considered?
Chair Bjornberg, Commissioner Wallace. So staff, in reviewing the application that the applicant submitted, after we had deemed it complete already, noticed that there might be a slight inaccuracy about the previous material there. So, in looking at historic photos and looking at the Sanborn maps and kind of understanding the history of what the tower was used for, the iron cladding, what we believe was there historically. So, to answer your question, I don't think the applicant was aware of that, or by the time we received the application, that wasn't part of the scope of work, so we weren't able to discuss it with them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Other questions for staff on this item? Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing for this item, and it sounds like the applicant is here and would like to speak. If you can please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record.
I've got slides, so just give me a moment. My name is Madeline Sundberg. I'm the historic architect for McDonald & Mack Architects. Our address is 3244 34th Avenue South, Minneapolis. I guess just to start by answering the question, the lighting is intended to be reinstalled. If when they take them off, they aren't able to reinstall, they would be replaced in kind. We're not planning any drastic lighting alterations. Nicollet Island Pavilion, it's a very prominent historic structure, and the owner is committed to the stewardship of it. And that's what's led us to this cupola repairs project. The goal of the project is to continue the use of the building and to halt the ongoing deterioration. The owner accepts condition 2, and we're happy to work with staff on the final solution for creating the maintenance access inside the cupola through the window opening. That's why 1 is intended to be operable. It'll be on the side with like the lower slope so that people for maintenance can walk up the roof and get in. It'll be locked so that other people can't get in, but that's what that is for. So we're happy with condition 2. Condition 1, we feel pretty strongly that wood siding is not the best solution for this building. As Rob mentioned, the 2022 approval expired. It was due to delays coming out of the pandemic with construction and everything and bidding. So as noted in the staff report, we know that wood siding was not the original siding, yet we did not get a chance to discuss metal siding. This is the photograph we have, which is of the tar paper that was exposed on the building. There isn't, as far as I know, great documentation of what that metal siding would have been. You can't replace with tar paper. Clearly, that's not a legal siding material nowadays. And so, in 1986, the Park Board rehabilitated the building, installed the cedar lap siding. The siding deteriorated really rapidly. It was replaced again in 1998, deteriorated again, replaced between 2008 and 2011. So roughly every 10 years. 2019, McDonald & Mack was brought on board to look for solutions. At that point, this is from 2019, the paint was already deteriorating significantly. It had only been 8 years, and it's already starting to rot. And so, we're requesting the use of the hardy plank lap siding because of this ongoing deterioration of the wood siding. Replacement in kind is not a cost-effective solution for continued stewardship if they have to replace it every decade. I know fiber cement siding isn't a typical solution for historic buildings, and because of the guidelines to not use fabricated materials that look like wood, but in this case, the wood siding is not a historic material, and we know that it wasn't wood siding. I guess the reason we selected this product is that we can maintain the existing appearance, more or less, while providing a significantly longer lifespan. The hardy plank lap siding has a lifespan of 50 years. That's a lot longer than wood siding in this environment. The siding will have the baked-on finish, so it's kind of integral to the product. It'll be this deep green color, and so the color is even warranted for 15 years, which is longer than the siding itself has been lasting. So this solution will maintain the dark contrast, the dark siding, the white lettering of the signage, and that's a really key feature of the building that we thought needed to stay. Here you can see some close-ups of the level of deterioration that currently is there. It's so rotten and moist that we were getting lichen growing out of the siding up there. If I can get it to play. The owner has a number of videos of water just raining into the building through the cupola while they're setting up for weddings and other things in the venue. And so our real concern is that the ongoing deterioration that will impact the rest of the building from this sort of exposure. So the reasons we think that this location makes a lot of sense for something like this fiber cement siding is that the exposure on the river gets very severe weathering, more than you would see. It's up high, and it's right on the point there. The cupola is well above head height. You can see here, we don't believe this will impact the public's experience while they're viewing the historic building. The lowest point, which is on the east elevation, is still 16 feet above grade. So it's not like somebody can walk up and feel it and be like, oh, what's happening here? It'll look basically the same. We don't feel like it's creating a false sense of history because it wasn't wood siding. So we're not trying to mimic something historical. We're just keeping the existing appearance. So we're asking for an exception to be made to allow the fiber cement siding because replacing the wood siding approximately every 10 years is not a sustainable solution. Access is very difficult because of the height of the cupola. It's not a structure that park staff can easily and safely repair and repaint regularly. The labor, materials, and access for residing with wood costs approximately $50,000, and that doesn't include repainting the signage. And so, in the 50 years that the hardy plank should last, the wood siding replacement would be about $250,000, and that's not something the park board really has the capacity for. The park board would like to invest more in durable siding, which costs about $13,000 more than wood siding upfront, put in this investment into the site. That'll save the park board system money in the long run and allow this building to continue to operate. We don't feel like this will impact the historic integrity of the property or the larger historic district. Instead, it maintains the integrity by allowing the building to be watertight for 50 years. We believe the intent of the guidelines, to not use imitation materials to replace wood siding was intended to address replacement of historic wood siding. And that's not what this is. And so we think this is an appropriate time to allow an alternative material. The replacement with wood siding would really be a temporary repair that we know would deteriorate in this location in about 10 years. And once again, allow water to infiltrate into the building, potentially damaging the masonry below, as well as the exposed historic structure elements and finishes inside the building. And I'm available for questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you for your presentation. I just have a quick question. For the proposed fiber cement board, is the profile and size and width, does it match existing? Is it different? If you don't mind just talking a little bit about that.
Yeah. So we selected the closest we could get using standard products. So it's a lap siding. The exposure is basically the same. The color is basically the same. It's as close as we can get. It's not a perfect match, but it's pretty close. We're hoping that, the shadow, we wanted the shadow profiles and things like that to look basically the same so that this doesn't really stand out as a significant alteration.
Okay, thank you.
Do commissioners have other questions? Commissioner Rodriguez.
Thank you, Commissioner Bornberg. I have a question about the maintenance schedule. You alluded to it a little bit. I was wondering if you might be able to provide more detail. You mentioned that the tower is difficult to paint. In previous decades, has there been kind of any intermediary painting between replacements? Are you aware?
I can tell that there has been because there's some not great matches of paint in various areas. So they've tried, but you can see where they try. It's like near a corner where they can kind of reach, or like it's. I don't think they've done any wholesale successful repaintings. If I go back though to here, you can see where when they recited right over some of the old siding at one point, and so. You can see the layers. The green color is still the same. That they've kind of layered on there, and so they definitely have tried to do repairs, and it hasn't been successful.
Thank you.
Commissioner Corrado.
Thank you, Chair Bjornberg. I think I know what my question is. I guess I have two questions. One is it the material that's the issue, or is it the construction that's the issue? Because I guess part of my concern is that it's not the siding itself. It's something perhaps foundational before it, either the waterproofing, the roof, all of it sort of gives me a little bit of concern.
Yeah, so this would be a pretty comprehensive. I know the siding is what was pulled out from staff, but we would be taking it down to the existing sheathing. Any rotten sheathing would be removed and replaced with something the similar thickness. And then we would be putting up the new weather barrier and then the new siding. So we are hoping to address all of that. And this got a little bit broken up, but the roof was actually just replaced. The staff allowed us to proceed with the re-roofing because we were matching it in place so that we could try to like stop some of the water infiltration issues while we were waiting for this to move forward through review. So the roof actually just got finished like a month ago.
Okay, thank you. My second question is, I guess, the part of the reasoning of the Hardy Board is to try to mimic what's there. If the argument is that this wasn't the original, was there consideration for a different appearance so that it was less about trying to mimic what's there and a deliberate recognition that this is a change?
I think the concern with choosing something totally different is that we don't have any great record of what we would be trying to return it to looking like. And so the concern with creating a false history by choosing something else. And so it was deliberate to try to match what's existing in appearance and kind of keep with what's there while creating the durability.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, are there other questions? Okay, thank you for that presentation. Are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, what are your thoughts? Commissioner Wallace.
Well, I know that we're hamstrung by, or not, I wouldn't say hamstrung, but our purview on this is limited to the guidelines for the historic district. So that limits our scope a little bit in what we can review. But I am looking at the pictures and kind of thinking of this property and how it's associated with the surroundings and everything. I could see an argument for the cupola actually being secondary in terms of secondary elevations. I understand that it's highly visible, but the distance and like the height, I could see an argument being made for that, and I think that opens it up a little bit. That's where I am, I guess, in thinking through this.
Other comments, thoughts? Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you. I would agree with Commissioner Wallace. Also, I just want to let you all know how I'm thinking. I'm thinking that based on the fact that it's not originally wood, and I could see the maintenance challenges of trying to keep that painted, because you'd probably have to paint that every year minimum, just because of where it's exposed. And the park board owns this, and they're not. Their money goes towards other things that I think are more important than regular maintenance like that. But I think that the hardy board is actually a good solution for longevity while still trying to keep that wood look. So I would support the hardy plank.
Commissioner Maston.
I would agree that I would support hardy plank used in this instance, especially given that it was not historically wood. The difficulty maintaining it, and just, did you say it was 16 feet above ground is the lowest point? I don't know that anyone would be able to tell the difference at that point if it was wood or hardy plank. So I think given all of those factors in this particular case, it would be justifiable.
Other commissioners. I'll say Commissioner Booty.
Oh, I was just going to echo what other commissioners have said, and yeah, I've been thinking about creating the false sense of history aspect of it all, and kind of maintaining what is there, given the maintenance requirements for this property. I would also be in support of a hardy plank solution.
Other commissioner comments? I'll say I personally have a little bit of a struggle with the hardy plank material. I really do empathize with the maintenance challenges, and I appreciate that there's sort of a evidence of trying to keep that up. It isn't just oh, we're not doing anything. It's nope, we've done this over and over again. I'm glad that Commissioner Corrado asked about other pieces leading to the decay, because looking at the video, I'm okay, well, it seems like there's a real roof problem, and maybe not that gutters solve everything, but just trying to think about okay, where are these problems coming from, and not just okay, how do we replace this one piece? So I don't know that I have strong thoughts, but Commissioner Corrado.
Yeah, I struggle with the choice of hardy board. I mean, there are other alternate natural wood products that are also have longevity. My concern, I think, primarily in the question of all the things that need to happen is that if the hardy plank is then perceived to not require the maintenance, is that perhaps the underlying issue actually has an opportunity to continue to become worse, because the hardy plank itself as a shell might be able to hide everything that's going on behind it. But understanding, the park board's constraints, that it never really was the original material anyway, part of my question was, I guess I would have been more comfortable if it was a more drastic change, if it was, I don't know, hardy board used to make those 4x8 sheets, So that was sort of my initial gut. So I guess I'm still on the fence. But my primary concern is for the protection of the structure, that not be overlooked simply as hardy, to not wait 50 years to go look at things, I guess is my comment.
Other comments from commissioners? Anyone feeling ready to make a motion or more items to discuss on this?
I guess I could try motion, see how it goes. So I make a motion that the HPC approve the certificate of appropriateness to replace siding and windows and repaint signage at this property, striking condition number 1. Is that an accurate? Yeah. Can I start over? I'm like, I didn't say that right. Okay. I make a motion that the HPC approve the certificate of appropriateness at this property as conditioned by staff, except striking condition number 1.
Thank you, Commissioner Masson.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Wallace seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Wallace. Any other discussion? Would the clerk call the roll?
Booty.
Aye.
Corrado.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
Vice Chair Maston.
Aye.
Chair Bjornberg.
Aye.
There's 7 ayes.
Thank you. That motion passes. Our next item is item number 8, 3123, 2nd Avenue South, Ward 8. This is an application for a certificate of appropriateness, and the staff report is presented by Rob Skalecki.
Thank you again, Commissioners. Rob Skalecki, Senior City Planner in the Historic Preservation Team in CPED. I'm presenting here a certificate of appropriateness for the property located at 3123 2nd Avenue South in the Healy Block Historic District. The subject property is recognized as the Rufus H. Lane House, a contributing resource in the Healy Block Historic District. The dwelling was completed in 1892 as a 2.5-story Queen Anne home, clad in wood clapboard with a limestone foundation. It was later covered in plaster veneer or stucco in 1942. Rufus Lane was a pharmacist who was recorded as the first resident in the home in the 1893 Minneapolis City directories. The designation study notes that the home is a mainstream Healy design of the early 1890s, important principally as a connective link between more intact and or innovative Healy designs. The designation study calls out design elements of the home that are emblematic of Healy's design palette. So the designation study does state common Healy designs show an elaboration of details. Triptychs are often embellished with brightly colored art glass transoms, such as located at the properties 2116 3rd Avenue South or 3111 2nd Avenue South, or semicircular openings under gables, and then it notes the subject property 3123 2nd Avenue South as an example of that second part. In fall of 2025, the city discovered unpermitted work completed at the home. The zoning inspector issued orders to correct. The historic semicircular window configuration in the main front gable had been removed, the opening altered, and a vinyl sliding window installed in place with vinyl arched windows. So staff identified that a certificate of appropriateness application was needed to evaluate this project retroactively. No building permit was submitted for the project, and the applicant hasn't yet stated what has happened to the historic windows after removal. So you can see with the photos I'd shown previously, the arched window in the front gable at different decades, and this is the most recent photos we have of the property, both interior and exterior, to show what it looked like prior to the unpermitted work. Since the work is complete, staff will discuss the applicant's proposal in that manner. The applicant did remove that semicircular decorative wood window at the front gable, did cut a larger opening and installed the 3 vinyl windows. So we have the middle one that is a sliding window or appears to be a sliding window, and then the 2 that are flanking it in the arched sections of the opening. The installed window configuration replaces the two center arched windows and includes a section of the gable with the wall cut out, as I mentioned, to allow for this new window system. So the original arch shape does remain in place, kind of on the sides there, framing this new window in the larger opening. Historically, the window did include 4 lights. All of them appear to have been fixed, with 2 larger windows that included kind of a crosshatch style diamond muntin configuration, and it was flanked by side windows with oval overlays. In addition to the work that was completed as part of this application submission, the applicant is proposing kind of a further third option that they included in their application for evaluation. So that further scope of alteration is shown here, is what's being proposed. This would include cutting out an additional space in the wall opening and modifying, again, that historic arched window opening to install 3 single-hung vinyl windows in this opening. So staff evaluated, I'll back up a bit actually. So staff did receive 2 public comments in opposition to the project, and those were included for commissioners to consider in your public comment packet. So staff did evaluate this under the 5 findings for a certificate of appropriateness. Staff did not find that the proposed project met any of the 5 findings, but I will focus specifically on, again, evaluating this under the design guidelines for the Healy Block Historic District and the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. So under the finding for the alteration being consistent with the applicable design guidelines adopted by the Commission, the Healy Block Historic District guidelines were adopted in 1990, and they apply to this project. So the work that has been completed, in addition to the work that's proposed to further enlarge the opening, do not meet the Historic District's design guidelines. So the guidelines require that the original decorative windows, such as round top windows, be retained. And the applicant has already removed the decorative arched windows without a permit review. The vinyl windows currently installed as unpermitted replacements in the openings are not consistent with design guideline requirements for materials. All replacement windows, both the ones that have been installed and the ones that are proposed, lack the original decorative muntin or light design. The design guidelines note that a replacement window must match the original design and proportions, and the window that was installed without permit approval does not match this. It's in staff's opinion that the original window configuration with the wood arched window system, framing division, diamond muntins, and all aspects of what existed previously must be put back as it had existed before. In evaluating the project under the standards, staff noted that the work that's been completed as well as the proposed work to have the 3 single hung windows don't meet the Secretary of the Interior standards. So a replacement vinyl sliding and fixed window system on the front or west elevation that has been installed has destroyed a character-defining feature of the building in the historic district. The proposal to further replace the windows with 3 1/1 vinyl windows does not meet standards 2, 5, and 9 as outlined in the staff report. In staff's opinion, the original window configuration with the wood arched opening system, framing division, and diamond muntins should be put back as it has existed before. So staff noted the alterations are not consistent with any of the findings required to approve a certificate of appropriateness, and work has already been completed without building permit approval. So with that, the Department of Community Planning and Economic Development recommends that the Heritage Preservation Commission adopt staff findings for the certificate of appropriateness, and recommend that the Heritage Preservation Commission denies the certificate of appropriateness to replace windows on the front west elevation of the property located at 3123 2nd Avenue South in the Healy Block Historic District. And I'm available to answer any questions as staff, but I do know the applicant is here as well and may be able to answer other questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Do commissioners have questions for staff? Commissioner Corrado.
Quick question. Do we know what the dimension of the original window panel was, the taller one?
Chair Bjornberg, Commissioner Corrado, we don't have exact measurements of what it had been. The applicant may have more information on that, but what we received is what, we asked for as much information that we could get from the previous conditions, and we understand whenever we're looking at unpermitted work, sometimes it's difficult to get, exact dimensions of what existed prior to alteration.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just trying to determine if it met egress requirements, but it's hard to know.
Other questions for staff on this item? Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? Please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Aide Salgado, and my home address, 5193 Abercrombie Drive, Edina, Minnesota. And I'm here on behalf of my dad. He's the one that actually owns the property, but he's no longer physically or mentally able to maintain it, so I'm taking over it. And so I was the one that got the letter saying that this didn't comply, and as I started following up on what was going on with that window, that's when we found out that the house was historic. And again, this is something that he probably should have known, but he didn't. And then I asked him about that window that was there previously. I tried to track it down, but they just don't know like where it is. It's probably just, I don't know, in the trash somewhere, I'm sorry to say. And this is what I'm working with. As I explained, I'm happy to address the issue. I'm happy to resolve it, but I am working with limited information and just kind of learning the ropes of what having a historic house even means. When I submitted the application, I looked at other houses in the Healy district, and I saw that most of them, I would say at least 90% of them, have vertical windows that are double pane and open. And that's mostly for egress reasons because those attics are livable space, and so people need to be able to get out of there safely, or that is my assumption that's why pretty much all of the other houses in the neighborhood have those windows. So I try to stay consistent with submitting something that was similar to what all the other houses with the same style had, and that's why the option that I proposed was 3 single hung windows. As I was going over the comments that I received in the report, I realized that the vinyl material would not work. And so I would ask that if this is approved, it can be conditioned to maybe doing wood double hung frames windows instead of vinyl, because then it would be compliant with the material. And in my application, I always said that we would add the trim that was there that's consistent with what the rest of the house has. Like I said, mostly my idea was let's try to make it consistent with what all the other houses in the neighborhood have. And at the end of the day, I understand that these houses are historic, but they're also living places for people. And so making them livable requires having these types of window. I do know that the previous one could not be opened. It was like just a decoration, I would say. It was like the car, and the ones that we are proposing, we just want them to be able to be open and closed. As far as everything else, I'm willing to take on just suggestions or indications from you guys as far as how to make it work. I want to resolve it, but again, I just don't know like what other solution I can provide to address this issue.
Thank you for that. Do commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Booty.
Hi. Was the unit that is livable space in the attic, was that a unit prior to the replacement of the window?
Yes, so that house has it's a fiveplex legally. It has, and so the attic is one of the units. My assumption is that the previous owner did not comply with having an egress window in that room, but I don't know. It's just an assumption because when my dad bought it, the house did not have a window that could open, and it was a bedroom when he bought it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions from commissioners? Commissioner Wallace.
Thank you for being here and for describing the situation. Question about the egress piece. Is there, it's kind of hard to answer, I'm sure, so just broaching an idea, but are there potential opportunities to put an egress in the rear, like in a secondary elevation of that unit, that might solve that issue while returning the front to its historic appearance? Just wondering if that has, been part of the conversation.
Well, the house has two. Yeah, if you can give me the term, yeah. But the roof is, it's like two ways. So there is no other area. Like adding any new window would actually probably imply more modification to the house than that window. That's already there. It's already a hole, if you will.
Yeah, I got you. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I understand there is a member of the public who wishes to speak on this application. Madeline Douglas, if you could please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Okay. Let's see if I can get this set up first. And then, let's see this. Haven't done this part before. All right, let's see here. And then, all right. I was thinking of making this a slideshow, but maybe I'll just do it this way. Unless it could be made a slideshow. I'm not sure. All right, so I'll leave it with that. Good evening. I am Madeline Douglas, and of course I've been here before, but I am the owner of 3145 2nd Avenue South in the historic Healy District. I'd like to recommend at least one of the other comments that were sent in yesterday by David Peel. David has been a 30-year resident of the historic Healy District, and he was one of the authors of the guidelines. He strongly recommends replication of what was the original window. We do have the resources to recommend craftsmen who can do that. So I am in support of the planner's recommendations on this report to deny the certificate of appropriateness and request that the original window be replicated. I'm also, I don't know if as a member of the public I can request this, but I'm also asking that you amend your ruling, given the applicant's avoidance of filing building permits. I request you amend your ruling to prohibit the removal of any original historic windows or doors anywhere on the house, on any facade, not only the front facade, but the entire house. There does appear to be a non-historic replacement door on the back of the house. There's been a number of discussions of egress windows. There are some requirements, not being an architect, for egress windows in sleeping rooms. There could possibly be a conflict between historic requirements and the requirements of the building code. So I would say direct staff to work with building code officials and the applicant to make sure the historic window requirements are compatible with what's required for egress windows in the building code. My other comment is in regard to the section entitled Certificate of Appropriateness. which was submitted by the applicant. There are 8 sections, responses, I'm assuming to findings of fact. All 8 responses are inaccurate and untrue. There are 4 pictures included of houses in the district that supposedly show the type of window the applicant was proposing to use. The first one is 3107. Second, I think some ornament may have been removed from that window, those 3 windows over time. That may have been done before there was a historic district and historic district guidelines. They are wood clad. The second house is a house that is a non-contributing structure to the Healy district. It's not a Healy. It was moved on a vacant lot on the site of where a Healy house burned. The third house is David Peel's house. Obviously, original historic windows with a restored historic detailed, wood clad, not compatible with what the applicant is proposing. And the final picture is my house, 3145 2nd Avenue. The windows are original. They were missing historic details. These windows were meticulously restored by Anders Christensen, and the missing wood details like corbels and other ornaments were restored. So again, I'm requesting that you go further than, even though this application is focused on one window, it's very clear that this applicant could, with its history of unpermitted work, replace all the rest of the windows and the doors. And I hope you will add that added protection for this house. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Okay. I will now close the public hearing. Commissioners, comments on this item? Commissioner Thomas.
This is more of a question for someone who may know more about building code than I do. Can casement windows be egress? Okay. Because I would think that would be a good solution to recreate the windows as they were, but making at least one of them an operable casement, if not both of those larger ones.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
I just want to say that's exactly what my kind of thinking was. So thank you.
Same here. That was my thinking too.
I'm like, I don't know if it would be helpful to reiterate what that thinking is idea-wise, just because I feel like the
Sure.
applicant was asking for ideas, so it might be helpful to.
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, and you, I don't know. Sure. Oh, I don't know. That one option that would be in balance with both the guidelines and if the building code requires that egress, is that arched window would be restored, but that instead of fixed windows like that, or kind of like that, you'd have a casement window that could open inward and people could get out that way. So it would look the same, it would be materials, or that would be the recommendation eventually, but that egress could be achieved in that way, and it wouldn't, the idea would be that wouldn't disturb, or that wouldn't be antithetical to the guidelines, at least in the way we're thinking about it.
Thank you for summarizing. Other comments on this item? Commissioner Corrado.
Yeah, I guess somewhat echoing that, and my question originally about the dimension of the window was to ensure that one panel was enough to be an egress. It may potentially be that they both need to open like a French door, which is probably possible. I'm not a window maker, but so I'm not going to say that it's an easy solution, but it is a possibility. I think the second question that I think came up earlier as well is potentially having an egress way on a secondary facade. It's probably a skylight that's operable as an egress. Not great, but it is an alternative to be able to keep that bedroom and meet the building code requirements if the front facade then can then be restored to its original. So I think those are the two obvious solutions, I guess, architecturally. I think when you are a steward of a historic building, it is important to understand the uniqueness of each individual structure and how it sits within the neighborhood and all of the things that make a particular style or a particular home unique and significant, and to be able to kind of protect that. So you will see, one sees non-contributing structures that may have features that you would like, but it's not always something possible on the historic contributing structures. So just empathizing with the difficulty of navigating that, and I guess also expressing an appreciation for a willingness to work toward it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I do want to second that I appreciate that. It sounds like the applicant is really trying to understand and navigate historic building ownership, which is not always the easiest. So I do appreciate that. Other comments or anybody thinking about a motion? Commissioner Booty.
Hi, thank you, Chair Bjornberg. I just also wanted to clarify, if we're voting and motioning on the proposed staff recommendation, that the applicant would be able to submit a different certificate of appropriateness for some of the items that we had been discussing now.
That's my understanding, but I will look to staff to confirm that.
Thank you, Chair Bjornberg, Commissioner Booty. I am Erin Kay, sitting in for Andrea Burke. So thanks for raising that question. I think it's good to kind of lay out the options here. So if the HPC would vote to deny the certificate of appropriateness today, that is essentially kind of supporting staff suggestion to restore the windows as they originally were. And that is something that to kind of reconstruct it as it originally was could very well be taken care of through the permit review process and may not necessarily mean it would have to come before the HPC in the situation that you may be suggesting that the applicant is exploring a different type of operation. I think that's something to be discussed with staff to kind of work out what's the appropriate path forward for that type of application. I can't say right now in this moment whether or not that would come before you again, but that seems like a worthy alternative to explore. If the HBC was looking to approve the application today, you would have to overturn staff findings, and that would be to approve it as presented or proposed by the applicant, maybe with slight modifications through conditions of approval.
Just to confirm that I understand, so if we were to follow the recommendations as written and deny this, that would not prevent the applicant from being able to submit a new application for replacing the windows.
Thank you, Chair Bjornberg. Correct. The applicant could submit a new application that proposes a different approach. Typically, if someone were to come back and submit the same application with the same approach, you would anticipate having the same outcome. But a new application with a new approach could be submitted.
Commissioner Booty. Oh, okay.
I'm all done. Thank you, Chair Bjornberg.
Commissioner Wallace.
Question as a follow-up to that. In developing an application, the applicant can discuss options with staff at the city. Is that correct? Like discuss options before submitting the application?
Chair Bjornberg, Commissioner Wallace, yes. The applicant can work with staff to talk through the different options, what they're considering, if they would want to look into a skylight possibility, what that could mean through this process, or looking at how to reconstruct those windows, possibly change the operation.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Thomas.
Well, I am going to propose a motion that the Heritage Preservation Commission denies the certificate of appropriateness to replace windows on the front west elevation of the property located at 3123 2nd Avenue South in the Healy Block Historic District.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas. Is there a second?
Rodriguez seconds.
Thank you, Commissioner Rodriguez. Any other discussion? Will the clerk call the roll?
Booty.
Aye.
Corrado.
Aye.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thomas.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
Vice Chair Maston.
Aye.
Chair Bjornberg.
Aye.
There are 7 ayes.
Okay, that motion passes. Okay, the next item that we have is item number 9, 1700 50th Street West, Ward 13. And we are looking to continue that to the February 10th meeting. If I can have a motion for that.
Maston so moves.
Is there a second?
Wallace seconds.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak for or against this item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, item number 9 is continued to the February 10th, 2026 meeting of the Heritage Preservation Commission. That concludes our public hearing items. Do staff have announcements?
Yes, Chair Bjornberg, this is Erin Kay, Senior City Planner. I have 3 updates for you. The first is an update that the City Council has decided to operate on a modified schedule for upcoming public meetings to better allocate their time and resources to deal with the more urgent needs of the city at this moment. This does mean that the Business Housing and Zoning Committee did not meet today, and those items will be shuffled to future meetings. One of those items includes the appeal on the HBC's decision on 201 Franklin Avenue East, which is planned to be heard on February 17th. So we will provide an update once we have that. The second update, I believe we did receive our volunteers to serve on the Minneapolis Preservation Awards Committee, and I failed to check with Rob before this meeting, but hearing no comments, thank you for those who volunteered to serve on that committee. And then my last update is related to the ordinance changes. We have gotten our website updated with accurate process information, definitions, and all of the new applications. So that is available for folks to use, and we are already having applicants reach out to us to use those new forms. So as you have some time, feel free to check it out, and you'll be seeing applications using those forms in the near future. That is all for my updates.
Thank you. That's very, very exciting. Do commissioners have any announcements? Okay. With that, we've completed all the items on the agenda for this meeting. There being no other business to come before us, and without objection, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. The next regular meeting of the HPC is February 10th, 2026. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. We're no longer, hopefully, on air. I just want to say a brief, just little reminder on recusal, recusing yourself. If anything that you're doing in your private work or personal life is attached to something that's before the board here, it is best practiced to just state that as the item